What's poppin', everybody? Week 6, going through all the player props on the board every single game, trying to find the best player props available using props.cash. If you guys did not see, props.cash actually dropped a massive update to their mobile UI. So that's definitely something worth considering. I'll see if I can find a way to stream that as well. But let's get to it. Give me 2 seconds to get a promo out so we can get everybody in chat watching stream. We have of course, full NFL slate. We're going through every single game, finding props to bet together right now using props.cash, as well as I have a couple of bets that I already placed. We'll see if the numbers are available so we can make sure that we get in accordingly. So tough night last night, unfortunately. 0-3. We lost the under, which was dead from the beginning. And I was talking about it on stream where the market clearly told me it was a bad bet. There are going to be situations where you make a bet early in the week, you think you're feeling good, and then the market comes around and is taking money on the other side, especially when it comes to efficient game lines, of course, a total. Once that market starts steaming up again, I was like, I definitely know I'm in a bad spot. And I could have, of course, hedged out or something, but for one unit on a total, I was going to ride with my guns there, and that was dead from the get-go. And then Jackson Dart had a long completion to Wandale on his first drive, which killed me, unfortunately. And then Scatterboo finished with 12 receiving yards, though that probably did have 2 yards of CLV. So all in the game, not really, let's get it back this weekend. That's the game plan. Tough Thursday night, but we have a full Sunday as well as 2 games on Monday. So let's get to it. I'm going to tweet out one more promo. Week 6 props, and let's get to it, boys. 1 second here, and let's go. We start off with a London game, more of the NFL International Series going on. We have, of course, the New York Jets, considered a home game, taking on Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos overseas. Now, I'm going to stick to all props here. Of course, if I do have a bet on a game, I'll call it out. But with that being said, the goals of these streams on Friday are always to find props using props.cash in real time and to lock them in and talk through some other stuff that I bet. So let's talk about every game holistically, of course, starting in London. I actually have bet 2 things in this game. We, of course, have Justin Fields, Bo Nix. Let's take a look at Fields here because I actually faded Fields, but not in the passing market. I bet his under rush yards. I bet it at under 44.5. We look at the market here. That's price is looking to still be available at DraftKings. This is where I bet it at DK. So if it did move, we can, of course, find out. But I bet Justin Fields under 44.5 rushing yards. Looking at this matchup now, he, of course, was flying over this number to start the season, having some crazy, crazy high rushing games. Also, from a touchdown perspective, we let off the season with the 2 TDs, had 1 touchdown in against Miami. And his rush attempts as well, they're set pretty high. It's 8.5. He's gone under in these games, except for the opener against Pittsburgh, which was that crazy game that flew over the total there. But 7-7, 5. And now he gets to go overseas to play the Broncos, who have one of the best defenses in football. Now, I could see the argument that it's okay, well, just because the Broncos are a team that gets a ton of pressure and does, harass opposing quarterbacks, that when you have a quarterback like Justin Fields, that might actually be a good spot to try to back the over, because again, if you anticipate there to be a ton of pressure, maybe the thought process would be that, okay, they're getting a ton of pressure. It's going to lead to more opportunities for Fields to scramble and to get some more rush yards accumulated. But I don't think that's necessarily the case here. We can take a look at some of the data on props.cash. Looking at some historical lines from quarterbacks this year on their rushing yards. We'll stick to the season, of course. Jalen Hurts did not get out of the pocket whatsoever and ended with just 3 rushing yards, going well under. Jake Browning, of course, not known as a mobile quarterback, but does have some mobility capabilities, and he went well under. Herbert, another quarterback who is actually definitely more mobile and has a bunch of bigger rushing games, he went under. And Daniel Jones as well going under, is also, as we know, a rushing quarterback. So even though Fields is definitely the biggest rusher of these guys, though, guys like Herbert, Jones, and Hurts, it's not like he's really that far off the mark there from in terms of a rushing perspective whatsoever. I think this is a great number. And then looking at the market, which of course dictates a lot, you have FanDuel, Caesars, Fanatics as well, all with higher numbers. This Fanatics 130 is for one more yard. I actually don't think the 18 cents is worth it. But this is off market as well. So under 44.5 rushing yards for Justin Fields is one of my favorite bets for Sunday. I bet it early, and we're going to go through every single game, of course. But this is the first one that I locked in actually for this game. So we're going through every single game, talking holistically. This game, I have an odd screen open with some total numbers as well. Props.cash, of course, premier for player prop betting. Doesn't have the game line data, which is fine because they're props.cash. That's their MO. But this game, the total has ticked down a bit. It's 43.5, 43 at bookmaker, but 43.5 across the market. Definitely feel like this is a bigger under game, while the Jets are at 6.5 at some spots, getting 6.5, 7 in most, though. Of course, if you're a Jets backer, you want that 7. If you're a Broncos backer, you want a 6.5, considering that key number there. But I think that this is a spot where the Broncos really should run rampant. Now, of course, the Jets are 0-5, and like this could be a stereotypical, like, okay, let's get our mojo back type of game where they're ideally going to, finally play their best game. Like their seasons, of course, is basically already dead. But if there is any chance to, keep the season afloat, this is the opportunity in London. But they're playing a team with the Broncos that are such a better coach team. Obviously, overall more talented, but Bo Nix is still like scary because he's obviously not a great quarterback by any means, and he misses a ton of throws, but has looked a bit better the last couple of weeks. Look at some Bo Nix stuff here while we're on this game. 22 rushing yards, 33. Not a market that I really, or I should say, not a player that I really dove into. I do have one more play that I bet in this game, but definitely curious to take a look about some of these numbers, and also with props.cash's projections that they have to see. But Nix, really great offensive lines, doing a good job staying in the pocket. His rush attempts, 5.5. Like he's gone over in 2 of these games, and kind of like must-have it games, actually 3 with Cincinnati there. But against Philly and Indy, wasn't feeling the pressure, played more within the offense, and was not getting outside and running the football there. So get some Breece Hall numbers as well, because of course he is the lead back now, considering that Braylon Allen is hurt, and he's always been the lead back, but you guys know what I mean. They mixed in like a good amount of Allen, but now it's Breece's show. Allen left this game early, 81 rush yards, and Allen, of course, not playing here at 113 against the poor Dallas defense. But this defense is not the Broncos defense, though they have had some big games allowed on the ground. Omarion Hampton rocked them in that game. JT ran absolutely rampant, as we know, but again, JT is like kind of on another planet, and that's when the Broncos defense was still kind of getting their footing. But they absolutely shut down Saquon and Chase Brown in those 2 games respectively. And as we know, they shut down Hurts, Browning, Herbert, and co. So Breece, 67.5 is low for a team that likes to run the ball a lot, and a guy, especially with Breece's talent, but I have no interest in that. The next bet that I actually took was RJ Harvey. I also faded him as well. Let's look at his numbers here, but I didn't fade him just at rushing. I faded him rushing and receiving. I bet the under 51.5. Looking at the market here, that was best available. There was definitely some pretty big discrepancies. You see MGM at 47.5, FanDuel at 47.5, even Fanatics at 50.5. But then you have 51.5 from DraftKings with the under at -115, which is what I bet it at. I'm fading the Rook here against the Jets. Now, did have a massive game against Tennessee, massive game against Cincinnati. And with Sean Payton, you never know what's going to really happen in their backfield. Like J.K. Dobbins became the first back in a long time to go over 105 scrimmage yards with Sean Payton as the coach. That was mostly rushing yards, I guess, 101, which was more of the stat. It wasn't necessarily rushing and receiving because, of course, he did have some good receiving backs back in New Orleans, but had his 100-yard rusher in Dobbins. And then Harvey, it's like, what really is his role? Rush attempts, 6.5. He had the 14 against Cincinnati in a game that was not particularly close, though. Peyton does like to ride the hot hand, and is pretty unpredictable with who he decides to, trot on out there from a rushing perspective. But I don't think it's a Harvey game. Looking at some numbers against for rushing and receiving against the New York Jets, quarterbacks like Dak flew over in the game that was, a well over game. Tua got over. I'm looking at quarterbacks. Javonte absolutely cooked the Jets from a rushing perspective. But if like anybody's going to do it, right? Like, why would it be Harvey and not JK, who's been absolutely incredible to start the year? Achane cooked them, of course. But again, like, why would Achane convert to RJ Harvey from like a role perspective? That's not the case. They did get Bucky bottled up, and Cook ran rampant again. So this is a terrible rush defense, but J.K. Dobbins is the guy. This number just seems like it's too high to me because it's like, okay, they're pricing Harvey like he is like the lead back, but the reality is like J.K. Dobbins at 69.5, like he is the main guy. 4 straight 70+ yard games, 75+ yard games, of course, at a 100-yard game mixed in. So that's where I'm really anticipating the funnel to continue to go to. Like I know Peyton mixes it up, and they do give snaps also to like Tyler Batty and whatnot. So that definitely leads me to believe that this is like a good under spot. And I know Dobbins here. Let's go to like just receiving yards for a second. 3.5, because he is not that pass catching back. And looking at some receiving backs for against the Jets, like Jalen Warren did a great job, but Warren is, a very, very good receiving back. Bucky Irving as well, a great receiving back. Javonte not one. Achane is, and of course went under there as we see. But Harvey, going back to him, his receiving yard prop is 14.5. His rushing yard prop is 32.5. I don't see it. I think the best way to do it is to fade the under for rushing and receiving. Again, we know Achane went over Irving, Cook, and Williams, but it's like it's not his backfield. So in London, I also do expect a bit of like I would say like tired legs. Maybe that's on the defensive side, which would actually hurt this. But I don't think that these teams are going to come out like absolutely firing realistically. I like the total at under 43.5. It is at this point like under that key number. I'm probably not going to bet it. And of course, we're focusing in on props here, but definitely interested. And my 2 plays for this one are Fields under rushing yards and RJ Harvey under rushing and receiving. As you see here, best price at DraftKings -115. And for Fields, the best price was also at DraftKings -112, 44.5. I got it at 112 as well. So these are the 2 plays for the London game that I have. From receiver standpoint, like Garrett Wilson, number seems a bit low for GW, though it's been priced around here for the most part. Like this is kind of where his number has been sitting overall. But that being said, like of course you have the Surtain clamps probably coming, and like from a market perspective, this is just like straight up 55.5. No like outliers to fade one way or another, and some wide receivers against the Broncos, like AJ Brown got Surtained. Then you had Devonta Smith and Jahan Dotson, 2 like lower tier receivers. Well, I mean, obviously Devonta Smith's a beast, but you guys know what I mean. Jamar Chase couldn't get there, nor could T. Higgins. Keenan Allen got there and QJ got there, but that was the benefit of a very big play. Alec Pierce and Pittman. Pierce went over, and Josh Downs, like the 2 inside guys or the long threats, were the ones who were turned up, while like the wide receiver 1, of course, being Pittman, got shut down. And of course, with the Tennessee Titans, we know how bad they are, and they still obviously couldn't get anything going in week 1 in Denver. So I'm not really interested in a lot of these player props. I talk about this a lot when it comes to like Broncos games particularly. Yes, the fact that they run such a, I guess per se, like they have like an unpredictable offense, like outside of Sutton, who is their like clear wide receiver 1, like the snaps from an RB 2, 3 perspective are unknown. These snaps from a wide receiver like Troy Franklin, I know, was kind of dominating that snap share a bit. And we could pull up some numbers here for like targets. We'll look at like Franklin, and like Marvin Mims is getting involved. Evan Ingram is back healthy. It's like, who really is the guy? And the Jets, from a defensive standpoint, Waller got 2 tutties there. Kincaid, but he's more like a slot guy. Muth just went over his number. Ferguson almost went over and probably could have. Wide receivers, we know how bad this secondary is, but like Pickens went under, though he was able to score. Reek just over, though I think that's when he left with an injury. Like Buka cooked him. It's like Sutton or bust. And like I hate to be so basic when it comes to like a Broncos game and like, only targeting a star. Of course, when a star player has a good number, that's like always a good sign if you want to get in and like feel confident about somebody. But for me, it really is. And like the market isn't really even giving us a lot to work with on Sutton. It's Sutton or bust. You could try to find some low key value on, like a Troy Franklin and, averaging 6 targets a game versus like a Mims who's only averaging 4 targets a game, though you see a little bit of an uptick. Then we have Evan Ingram, who's back in the fold, who's, of course, like a reliable tight end who's gotten 7 and 6 targets in his last couple of games as well. So going to move on here, but the 2 plays are Fields under rushing, RJ Harvey under rushing, receiving. So let's keep on moving. Indianapolis versus Denver. Kyler Murray is questionable, as we're seeing. I'll pull up some underdog stuff so we make sure we're up to date on injury information as we go through everything as well. Like Props.catch does have injury reports as well. But the fact that they're like not like confirmed out is tough. We know like Lazard did not travel overseas. So let me do a scroll through underdog and I'll read off what's the deal with Kyler currently is. Kyler Murray actually will practice today, 17 minutes ago. Kyler Murray will practice today, so it might not be a Jacoby Brissett game. But I did bet the Colts. I laid the 7. The market moved to 7.5. We'll see if that was kind of like an overreaction to Murray potentially not playing in this one, or if that is just like the market, regardless of if Murray plays, they're intrigued by the Colts. And I understand why, because I bet the Colts at the 7 because I think that at this point, like it's undeniable that the Colts are just a very, very good team. In Arizona, like, yeah, they had their mishap last week where they had obviously lost and they were incapable of, doing anything so far this season. But I think Arizona, like I was high on them coming into the year, but I think at this point you got to like let go of your priors and like they're just a bad football team. And the Colts are just a good football team. Like, your priors as well the same way. Like, they could easily be 5-0. Yes, like you could say their schedule hasn't been so great, but I don't really necessarily buy it. So let's look at some numbers here. Maybe look at some touchdowns. Kyler is showing for odds, but probably only on a few books because we don't know if he's playing or not, which it seems like he is if he's practicing today. But a hobbled Kyler Murray, especially on the road, and like I don't love home road splits that much because you take a small sample and make it even smaller. But let's go to even like 2020. Let's go to those last 20 games. Home games, we're seeing a lot more green than away games. We're seeing a lot more of these like red numbers here. He's had some like big games against Miami, LA, but from home perspective, a lot more of inconsistency. But this is more also, I need more data going back like a few years ago, honestly, to like kind of showcase my point. But on the home this year, he cooked, and then on the road this year, been getting cooked 163 and 159. And then now he's like banged up, which is like never a good thing for a quarterback to be banged up, especially one who really like lacks talent, like Kyler Murray kind of does. At this point, I think we could say like he is kind of a duck. I haven't bet any props just yet, but I am curious to like dive through some of these numbers. Like JT's number is going to be so high, as we know, because he's on one this year. Receiving numbers, Marvin is at 49.5. Let's see how some receivers have done against the Colts so far this year. Ridley, let's go to the top here. Myers basically shut down, but that was a game where, again, they absolutely dominated. Even in garbage time, couldn't get there. Trey Tucker, the WR2, is one who got there. Puka just went off, but like that's Puka Nacua. There's like no shame in Puka Nacua going off against you at any point now because of how good Puka Nacua is. He's arguably WR1. We have Devontae got held back a little bit, but Tutu had a big play. As we know, he scored that game-winning tutty there. Let's keep rocking here. Lockett went over. Troy Franklin cooked. Sutton did not get there. So the wide receiver ones are having a tough go. And of course, we know the issues that Marvin and Kyler have had like his entire career realistically. And how bad the Cardinals OC is like also worth questioning because he actually might just be terrible. So I don't know if like this is like a bit of a discount, but again, like let's see the pricing, like not up at a lot of books because they don't know if Kyler's going to be playing, which I think Brissett at this point probably does elevate Marvin's floor. But with that being said, like that would also have to assume a bit of garbage time, which as a 7-point spread better, like I bet the Colts minus the 7. That's like not something to, dismiss. I think this could definitely be like a garbage time kind of game. See some Josh Downs. Let's see how the Cardinals have they been doing defensively against receivers. Wide receiver 1, Ridley. A lot of that came from the last drive. JSN was held under, but still a good game. Pearsall killed them. Tet killed them. Cooks and Olave went over, but like just by a bit here. But of course, Downs being a WR2, targets went up against LV in that game. The Colts, of course, can run the hell out of the ball and also just kill a bunch of clock, which like we can't forget about as well. That's like another relatively major factor. when the clock just keeps ticking, of course, it's going to take away opportunities for players to record stats. I've already gotten beat by Michael Wilson twice this year, hoping that he could finally get something going. It's like deep ball or bust. And again, without Kyler or Brissett knowing who's playing, we do have some odds up, but don't really feel too confident in like taking a position on that, considering the uncertainty. So this is a game where I think we could honestly move on relatively quickly. I laid it with the Colts. We don't know what's good with Kyler. That's obviously like a massive thing for prop betting here. So let's move on to New Orleans and New England. I like the New England Patriots minus the 3.5. I haven't bet it because, of course, that hook is there. I was hoping it came down. It's also not something I love. Like, I love the Colts. I bet the Colts already. So that's like worth noting. Like, I can say I'm definitely leaning that direction. But I do have a prop in this game that I bet. And this was kind of a bad number. I think this is more of a number play overall. But Juwan Johnson, if it's still there, looks like it got bet up to 33.5. I got it at 32.5, but I still like it at 33.5. I think that's still EV to the market with FanDuel at 38.5 as well. Even like Prize Picks, I know that they're not the sharpest book, but like they do their best to like adjust their squares accordingly, as do Underdog with their fixed payouts. But I like Juwan Johnson. So we've seen his target rate drop a bit after dominating the first 3 weeks. Snap count, though, if we see here, is not going anywhere. He's still playing the game like a vast majority. Receptions have gone down as his targets have gone down, which is understandable. But looking at TEs, Kincaid killed them, though. I think that's a bit of like Kincaid doesn't play traditional TE, so he's kind of like an outlier there. Muth and Jonnu went under, but that was a game where the Steelers benefit from a bunch of turnovers. Bowers absolutely dominated them. Of course, Bowers is like a different breed as well. So like not really a lot of like historical data that you can like plug and play to like kind of back this a bit. But from a market perspective, this number is just so low compared to market. So I like Juwan Johnson's overs. And I also like what Rattler's been doing. Kellen Moore's actually done a pretty good job in Rattler, despite the uncertainty with like how good or bad is he. Don't get me wrong, he's still in like the bottom third of the National Football League in quarterbacks and definitely low on that totem pole, but he's not like a complete pumpkin like I thought he might potentially be. The Saints offense has definitely been, better than most people have expected. I think that their defense actually stinks. So let's look at some Patriots stuff. I have another prop that I like a lot on the Patriots side. We know Antonio Gibson is done. Ramondre has his fumble problems, but they clearly like still relatively trust him because he did score even after fumbling for the 1 millionth time in his career. Ramondre and fumbles are like peanut butter and jelly. They just go together. Unfortunately, for him. I mean, if you're anti-Patriots, then I guess keep going, Ramondre, keep dropping that football. Pulling something up on my other screen for a second just to make sure I'm seeing properly here, but I like TreVeyon Henderson receptions. Number has moved. It was as low as let me pull it up here. It was as low at 110. It's at 365, which aren't shown here on Props.cash. So maybe check 365 if you have that available to you. If you're a Prize Pick user, this is a great square. I love TreVeyon Henderson over receptions. Again, we know that Antonio Gibson, who is their receiving back, is not playing. So he's going to, get some more snaps to TreVeyon. Snap percentage got up to 50% with the Gibson injury coming in. And like a lot of the nonsense with TreVeyon has been like his pass pro hasn't been great. And that's kind of been where the issues are. But Scatterboo flew over here. Ty Johnson is Buffalo's like receiving back. He didn't get there, which, is tough. But that was a game where the Bills had to like kick it into like overdrive there and also like did run the ball a lot. McCaffrey got well over. James Conner, who is that bell cow, went over. Like Ramondre is at 2.5, juice to the under. So because of that mixed with TreVeyon being like juice to the over as well here, I think he's a great target for 3+ receptions in this game. And I do think this is a Patriots spot as well. Also, we bet Juwan Johnson. So we have a lot of bets that we locked in. I'll, go through them every 3 or so games just to like remind everybody what we played so far. But, please feel free to, of course, tell if you like what we're seeing here. But let's keep diving in. I think we saw that Christian Gonzalez might not be healthy still. Let me pull up Underdog and confirm here because I saw some news. We know he did get some burn, but it was a situation where Gonzalez, I think, was limited in practice again. I want to confirm that, which is like never a good thing for a guy who's like dealing with injuries and like could just be a season where he's just never going to be healthy. I'm looking at Underdog. I'm gonna have to do a quick just like search for him specifically here. Where is Christian Gonzalez? I saw some news. I know I saw some news, so I don't think I'm tripping here. Let's do a search here. Christian Gonzalez. And I actually was like curious to see. I was curious to see how many targets Olave's really been getting. Like, I didn't realize because like the numbers have actually been there, averaging 10 a game, 11 last game, 14, 10, 13 to start the season against Buffalo. You know, the Bills, not a great defense, but did a good job. Okay, so here's the Gonzalez. I'll switch my screen here. So we had a Boston Globe reporter mention that they think that Gonzalez tweaked his hammy again because he did not play in practice, or he was limited in practice. But then we have another ESPN reporter here, Mike Reese, mentioning that he was working away from team drills, which was predetermined plans. So I guess we don't really have enough Seago news right now because there's like mixed reports. One saying he was hurt, one saying he was supposed to be off. And I'm seeing another tweet 44 minutes ago. Gonzalez is here to start a practice Friday when he was limited on Thursday. So good to know for Gonzalez if he'll be going against Olave. But Olave's been just killing the target share, which is just understandable. He's a very good player. I know he's dealt with like the concussions and whatnot, but when he's been healthy, he's been really great. In historicals against the Bills, against the Patriots, Shakir went well over. Samuel Palmer did go over. Keon went over. So all the receivers went over, but we know that the Bills spread it out and it's tough to see. I think also, of course, Kincaid went way over. I had that last week. That was nice. DJ Moore, should be David Moore, I was going to say. Ted McMillan still went under, but that's, again, a Panthers offense that can't do anything. Drake May at this point is just like a great quarterback. Let's look at some passing numbers. Rattler, 211. Seems a bit low, but I guess not really looking at the numbers. Like, he does throw the ball a good amount here, like passing attempts. 32.5 is pretty high. Went well over in 3 games, but that didn't even, correlate to necessarily going over his number with such low metrics there. And this Giants game benefited massively from the Rashid Shaheed big time play. And Rashid Shaheed, somebody who I feel like has fallen a bit by the wayside just from like a thought process as well. Like, he really is a great receiver. Great, obviously a bit of an overstand, but like he's still getting like a good amount of targets here. 6 a game, which is solid for a WR2. Getting some good snap counts, of course, is that deep ball threat. Does have a couple tutties. Right, this year he's got 2. Yep, against the Giants, against the Niners. So this Saints offense is sneaky, and not sneaky where they're going to like light everybody up and be great, but they're not nearly as bad as I think a lot of people thought, like myself included. I'm going to pull up some numbers here as well. I'll switch my screen to look at some EPA and some like passing offense numbers. Just to like get a better feel and show you guys. I'll switch my screen in a second once this loads. They're still going to be at the bottom of the NFL or near the bottom. 27th here in EPA per play. This is all shout out to rbstm.com. This is all free. Success rate, they're actually not too bad. 19th in the NFL. Dropback EPA, this is Spencer Rattler statistic, 25th, because again, we know he's not that great. Success rate there, though, 14th, so middle of the pack. Rushing success rate is also relatively high, 20th, again, relatively high for what you'd expect from them. And EPA is 24th. So the Patriots, coming off that massive win, they always do play the Bills tight. I see why the spread's 3.5, and there's definitely some opportunity for, some Saints to get after it. Olave at 143 to score, though, is just low. 190 at FanDuel. I normally like to DVig from FanDuel there. Like Sleeper, not the best book there for an EV calc. Stephon Diggs I'm interested in, actually. Again, don't think Sleeper is good for EV calcing here, but at 170, I know he hasn't scored yet, and I know it's a little bit of like probably recency bias because he had like a big game against his former team, and we know Stephon Diggs is a guy who was salivating at the opportunity to play his old team and like, balled out. had 146 receiving yards, 12 targets. They were peppering him. But Drake May has also been talking about how much they love Diggs, which is like understandable. No value from the receiving yard market. And let's look at the receptions. 4.5. Pretty high juice. So definitely juice to the over. I'm intrigued by Stephon Diggs to score a touchdown. I'm not going to go and bet it right this second, but this is on my short list. But I do like, again, TreVeyon Henderson over 2.5 receptions in this one. Pop Douglas, he's just like not playing snaps, which is always difficult to score. Of course, you try to find these like sneaky spots. Pricing as well, not necessarily too great. Hooper, no. Where's Hunter Henry, 185. Like I want to see a bit more. I know these guys are the anticipated scorers. Kendre Miller, though, at 140 is actually pretty solid here. Has 1 rushing touchdown. His snap count has just been going up a lot, and he's also one of the highest rated running backs in terms of like missed tackles forced. So he is shifty, and he's playing some pretty good ball. They definitely like him. But like Kamara, 130 Fanatics versus like Kendre, 140. Maybe Kamara, they're kind of like keeping him under wraps so they don't get him injured so they can trade him. You see a little bit of a snap dippage there against the Giants. Red zone rush attempts are much higher than Kendre, who did have that 4 red zone rush attempt game there. But overall, like he is consistently getting those rush attempts. Radler, 2 in the red zone there. Him to score at 575 or 8-1. Hasn't scored yet. That's a bit intriguing as well. I don't have a big love here. I do lean Patriots, but I'm not betting this game from a game line perspective. Props, Juwan Johnson over receiving yards and TreVeyon Henderson over receptions. So let's keep on moving here. We got a bunch of games. But LA Baltimore is going to be one that's going to be, not much to really talk about here. No props up for Rush, as we're seeing, at least the props.cash. Stafford, 258.5 at DK. It seems a bit low. So I, don't hate that. That seems like interesting. Let's see if props is projecting anything there for Stafford. They're projecting well over. So from props.cash is just general projections. They're big on Stafford to go over. That's a pretty big margin, especially for props.cash and just in general. So that's definitely worth noting if you're interested in tailing their projections there. They're big on Stafford. We know how bad the Ravens are now. Like it's like ridiculous with their defensive injuries. And I actually want to, check out a bit to see if there's any more news. These are all guys on IR for LA. Let's switch over to Baltimore. But considering how they're at and like what they're playing with, like it's so funny, -6 rushing yards for Stafford, as we know. Big kneel down guy. Henry could not get it going whatsoever at all this season, especially against Houston, which is a really good defense in general. But the Rams D is still pretty solid. So I think this could be another Henry fade, honestly. Like with Henry, he is like very predictable. And this number, I think, I want to say was like 88.5 when it was that high last week. And obviously, he didn't go nearly under. Now we're getting about like 10 yards of a difference here. I think it's closer to 80, actually. This is, snap percentage is still high. Rush attempts, 15 rush attempts to get 33 yards. That's obviously horrible. 8 against KC. That was a game that was, very pass heavy. Couldn't get anything going against Houston. And this Rams team, of course, had the extra week with the bye, the mini bye, as they played on Thursday night. So a bit of extra rest. Anytime tutties at this point, like a Henry under is like very intriguing. At -106. Say Flowers, like 250. He has a much better matchup this week, of course, than he did last week. But I don't know. Like Pittman got to them, Devonta Smith, WR2, Io Manor, and that crazy play in the back of the end zone where Cam Ward threw his first TD pass just like across the field there. Probably going to keep this one short and sweet because like I could see the Rams absolutely dominating. We don't have a ton of information on Baltimore, and Baltimore really might just be dead. I really wouldn't be shocked. The Rams, of course, have revenge in the sense of they played their loss to a very banged up, injured Niners team. Of course, divisional game where things are always often a bit, I don't want to say fluky is the right word, but like they're closely contested. Like they know who they're like they have like very good understandings of how each other play because they, of course, are um, playing each other twice a year, and we have had continuity between these coaching staffs. So I don't think that that's like, oh, the Rams stink. We also know the Rams were so close to winning many times. We had the Kyron fumble, we had the OT nonsense. So they should have probably won even without the injuries, but you do got to tip the cap. Puka at 95.5. I mean, just like I'm not going out and feeding Puka, but maybe from a numbers perspective, gonna keep this one short and sweet. I don't really love anything here. I'm gonna kind of pretend that game isn't even being played. But Cleveland, Pittsburgh, interesting spot. The Cleveland Browns. I talked about this on stream the other day. They elected to not use their bye week after coming home from their overseas trip. Worth noting because this is like the first time where a team neglected to use their bye that is going on the road. And before their bye, they were also on the road. So the Browns are coming off like a ridiculously crazy travel schedule here. And it's like unprecedented. So there's no like data to say like how good or bad it would be. I think you'd have to assume it would be a bad situation for them, considering all the travel, can't like time zone changes as well. Even like little things like not being at their team facility as often, being home in their own freaking apartments and houses. Like those things do relatively matter. But then on the flip side, from like a matchup perspective, this Browns DL is so good, and we saw what they did to Carson Wentz, almost winning that game. We've seen how they get off to quarterbacks, even like Jordan Love at home, which we know also the Browns defense has been much better at home this year. Aaron Rodgers is like borderline pumpkin. Like he's, obviously what they're 3-1. But he can't move back there. I do think the Steelers O-line will be able to protect a bit better, but all in all, like the way that Rodgers has been at this season, coming off, of course, the Achilles 2 years ago, being, as old as he is, with pressure, he's not done a great job getting out of the pocket and making things happen. Like he can't. He's not spry enough. He's not young enough. So I'm hesitant to click the Steelers, though I could see a situation where they just run the table with the Browns, who are just like, again, like hungover, for lack of a better word, from all their travel coming overseas and all these like situations that they're kind of facing that aren't really conducive to like playing well and like playing spry. But I did have a prop that I bet here. I bet DK over 51.5 receiving yards. Fanatics 50.5, but the 12 extra cents for the 1 yard is not worth it. I would stick to the 113 here on the 51.5 at DK. Two absolutely poor games, 2 games where he dominated that number. This was also a recipient of like a very large touchdown reception there. I don't think those big numbers are I shouldn't say I don't think. I know that those like big plays type of things are not sticky, but this number just seems too low, especially when looking at the market here. FanDuel at 55, Caesar at 55, Underdog even at 56, and even looking at some other shops, I think I saw like even Circa, which Props Like Cash doesn't have with, but I was looking at a different odds screen here. I'm gonna pull it up because I'm curious. Circa has it at 54.5, so we're getting like 3 yards of value from that perspective, and this is just sitting here. It's a good spot. Like I know it's like a relatively tough matchup. We know how the Browns defense is great. Jettas flew over, though of course DK's no Jettas. Addison missed a quarter and still almost went over there. Big G's JMO, he didn't get there, but this is like a team that does allow big plays. Amon-Ra, obviously still better than DK, but flew over that number. Packers couldn't do anything, but again, that was a spot where Browns were at home and cooking. Nuke went over, Zay Flowers went over, but that was a game again where the Ravens just dominated in the second half, and the Steelers are not the Ravens from 2 weeks ago. I think this is a great DK spot, and the market's also backing it as well. So DK over 51.5 receiving yards is another prop that I bet, and if you want to tail at DK, this is a good price and would recommend. Haven't found any really big touchdown stuff that I like, but let's keep looking at some stuff and see if we find anything. So I want to definitely find some bets that I haven't locked in just yet, but I've also talked about stuff that we've locked in. Total in this one, let's pull it up here. So we know I think it's supposed to be a lower scoring game. It is 38.5, which makes a ton of sense. Dylan Gabriel is, of course, still unknown. This passing prop number was so damn low in week 1. I wanna say it was, like, 170, which is, like, really crazy low. Of course, he did go over, though, like, really not by much. Um, Pass attempts, 19 completion on 33 attempts. Worth noting, looking at some of the stuff against, um, Carson Wentz flew over, in a game where we know, um what are you looking at here? Yeah, this is the Steelers. Carson Wentz flew over, Drake May, which they probably should have lost this game, but the turnovers are really what kept them in there. Sam Darnold, but this is kind of like before we knew how like good Darnold really is. And I'll pull up RBDSM in a second. I actually want to go over that game because if you think Darnold's just been good and like from like a fantasy perspective, and like obviously the Seahawks are 3-2, like looking at some of the advanced numbers, he's been more than good. And Fields cooked this number. The issue is like how good is Dylan Gabriel? Again, like attempts wise, 33, which was like, pretty solid number. Completions, 18 and a half, a lot of quick stuff, a lot of like really intermediate. The Browns also always play the Steelers well, but they also haven't had the Aaron Rodgers potential voodoo coming in. And Njoku. I bet another thing here. Let me pull it up exactly. Or I think maybe I missed the number. No, I think I bet some Njoku. Where was it? I did bet some Njoku. Let me pull up the exact price to confirm. I bet Njoku under receiving yards, under 34.5 at plus 110. It was on Novig. 35.5, 114 is the best you're going to get because it was 1 yard lower, but it was plus 110. I did see 3.6% EV on Novig. Yeah, he went over against the Vikings, but the Vikings, again, do a good job, or I should say allow more underneath stuff, which, of course, is beneficial to a TE. And, like, Hunter Henry cooked them, the Steelers. Even A.J. Barner for the Seahawks, their guy, they're one of their 2 tight ends. He went well over. Hockenson just, missed by the hook there. And, yeah, it looked like he was their main target, 9 targets. But Jeudy, he spoke about how Jeudy is such a big part of their offense, and I say he as in Dylan Gabriel himself. Harold Fannin had those 4 targets, 4 receptions. He scored a touchdown as well. That's a guy that they're intrigued by. Another rookie, Isaiah Bond, he was getting targeted a very good amount. He had 7 targets in that game, the first Gabriel start. They, of course, have their training camp days. And a player who's not being listed right now, who was hardly listed last week. He was listed in like the touchdown market, so maybe he is there as well. Was Jeremiah Thrash. He's another guy who like they connected with really strongly, or Jamari Thrash, excuse me. Again, we're talking about like a 13-1 number, but he's a guy who they had some serious connections with, 22-1 over at FanDuel. Damn. In the preseason, but did run a lot of routes. He was their WR3. Did not get the targets or anything, only 1 target there with still a good amount of snaps. But I think there's more than enough overall like talent, especially when you add in Judkins and his rushing ability for Njoku to go under. So definitely interested in Njoku under in this one, as well as DK Metcalf over. Those are my 2 props in this one from like a game line perspective and like a pricing, like I mentioned earlier. Unprecedented event with the Browns and their travel and their lack of rest. So I don't think it's a spot where I can say with like confidence how they will come out and perform. I would assume it'd have to be bad. I think the market is assuming as this moved from 5.5, 6 at some shops, 6 at Penny, 6 at Circa. So some of the sharper books are moving to 6. It's understandable, but the AFC North voodoo, I don't have a ton here. I want to find some more touchdowns as well. Don't get me wrong, boys. We'll get there. But we're going game by game. Seattle, Jacksonville. This is potentially the game of the week. If somebody would have told you a month and a half ago that Seattle at Jacksonville might be the game of the week, I mean, the Sunday night's definitely the game of the week, but a top 2 game on the slate, I think you'd probably look at them like they were, you'd be surprised. But that is the case. Let me pull up what I wanted to show you with Darnold. This is how good Darnold's actually been. And like whatever you want to say about advanced data, etc. Here's the here's a chart for some of the quarterbacks, and look where Sam Darnold is all the way at the top. That's with Drake May, who's been, of course, great this year. Lamar, who's Lamar. Jordan Love has been great. Jared Goff, who we know at this point is just a good quarterback. And looking at some of these numbers here, EPA plus completion percentage over expected composite, number one, Sam Darnold. Adjusted EPA per play, Sam Darnold, number one. EPA per play from the quarterback position, Sam Darnold, number one. And that also includes rushing numbers. So the fact that obviously Darnold's not a big rusher and still is leading that charge is amazing. Success rate, number one, Sam Darnold. Completion percentage, number two, Sam Darnold. Expected completion percentage, which isn't like a massive thing because you're completing over your expected. That's like better, which we have here. Completion percentage over expected, number one, Sam Darnold. Air yards is always worth noting, though it's not like a big thing because we have Russ dominating. This is literally how many yards you're throwing the football. Darnold though still 4, meaning they are taking deep shots down the field, as we know. So this spread is set at Seattle getting points, getting 1, minus 105, minus 107. So really a split market here, like a straight up pick 'em, which is great to see. From the pricing market with a game with a bunch of favorites here. I haven't bet anything because I don't know exactly where to go, because the question becomes like, how good is Jacksonville? How sustainable is what the Jags and Seahawks are doing? Like, how sustainable is it? Jags, of course, squeaking out a W against the Chiefs, which is just like, no matter how it comes, you got to tip your cap there. Of course, they have the pick 6, but they also had like a bunch of missed calls, a fumble on the goal line, some stuff like Trevor Lawrence falling down and still getting to the end zone, which honestly was a pretty heroic play, honestly. Like, shout out to Trevor Lawrence. I'm one who loves to talk crap about T-Law, but he beat the Chiefs. You get like a pass per se. Let's look at some numbers here. Receiving yards, like JSN's at 81, Kupp at 43.5. You know, got over against TB, got over against Pitt. He has like the connection with Liam Cohen, who was with him in the Rams. Like, not that that's like a revenge situation per se. Honestly, it leads me to believe that they're going to maybe focus a bit more on him. BTJ, finally, with an 80-yard game from a receiving perspective, only 4 receptions, but still 80 yards. Target share dropping a bit, though, still 7.6 a game. We know his drop issues have been a big problem. Let's see how some players have done against the Seahawks. So Shepard, Ibuka, Ty Johnson all went over. Marv, Michael Wilson, Dortch all went over. Olave, Shaheed, Cooks all went over. The Steelers could not do that, but in the game where the Steelers got smoked, I don't think a lot of people, that's before anybody really was putting respect on Seattle and Sam Darnold's name, and then Pearsall and Jennings. Let's go back to receptions, though. Oh, that's receptions. But let's go to yards and see how they've done there. Bit of a pass funnel. We know that they got absolutely dominated, the Saints, in this game. Though Shaheed and Cooks did go over with Olave just under his number. So BTJ is interesting at 61.5. Let's look at the rest of the market. Sleeper, if you're a sleeper player, that's a great square for the over. Just based on the market. And assuming that like he is getting a bit healthier. I shouldn't say, look, I mean, if the wrist injury was real, he's definitely getting healthier. I think that was kind of like Fugazi there. Seattle's defense also susceptible to the deep ball. Travis Hunter finally had like a relatively big breakout game. He's so damn talented. Like, maybe he won't show up on the stat sheet, as we know, because he plays multiple positions and he is this unicorn type player, but like, he's so damn good. Like, we got to make sure we're putting respect on Hunter. Receptions, though, 3 only against KC to go over. He did make like a circus catch. What's his touchdown? 209, 270 Fanatics in there. There's some other anytimes here. I don't have anything that I bet on this game. So, like, kind of why we're just talking holistically. Also, like, if you told me, like, gun to head who's winning this game, I guess I would say Seattle, but, like, obviously that's not something I have bet or am anticipating betting. Total 47.5. I kind of lean toward the over here, where this could be a game that is a shootout, but I didn't bet this. Let's see if it moved. Maybe I will bet it now. I actually bet it I did bet it in a parlay that lost already. So like, maybe I'll double back in. But ETN, I had it at 57.5 yesterday. 59.5 seems to be the best price there at MGM for ETN rush yards. Did not get there against KC, which I'm not surprised by. Actually, I was under there on on Monday. So like that's a game where I think I read well. We know that Tootin is picking up some slack here in the rushing in the snap department, I should say. Though it's still not a ton, but in the receiving numbers here, one getting a target a game. Whereas ETN, he's getting, he got 4 targets in that game, but did more in the passing game. A bit more from a receiving perspective, though, only accumulated 9 yards on 3 catches. Target share, they also have the other guy, the Quint Allen, who is like clearly their trusted pass protector, third down receiving back. No, another one where just like it's a tough game. Like we already are talking, like we have a bunch of props bet. We have Metcalf over receiving yards. We have going through all my plays, Juwan Johnson over receiving yards. We have Fields under rushing, RJ Harvey under rushing and receiving. We have Travion Henderson over receptions, Juwan Johnson under receiving yards. So not that we have a lack of plays for the weekend already, but can't really be forcing. I'm not seeing anything that's like screaming to me like must bet. Like I've seen a few times which pop up, but as we get more into the season, things get sharper. FanDuel with the sharp book here, minus 144 on Jason under receptions, 120 at MGM is actually a pretty good price. I just don't think the Jaguars secondary is going to be able to do kind of hold them back. And we also know that they made that trade yesterday, and that's probably going to be like a short-term net negative because having a cornerback go like switch for switch there. I'll read back the details. I'm sure everybody here knows what I'm talking about, but I don't think if you could plug and play, like you lost Tyson Campbell and he's been like pretty solid. And then now you bring in a guy who like from a corner, which is one of the tougher positions to like translate from team to team, from scheme to scheme. I don't think it's a great spot where I think their secondary might actually have to like be bad in this week for them to like be better moving forward, if that makes sense. So with that considered, I don't want to fade JSN even with this good price here. And I do think that actually there could be like a struggle factor for the Jaguar secondary. So I think Seattle could pull this one off here. But let's keep moving. I have some props that I bet here as well. I also bet the Chargers minus the 3.5. It has moved to 4. Let's look at the market again. Still 3.5 at Novig. You could get some down. And ESPN bet minus 110. So yes, the hook is still there, but I don't think we're seeing a 3 by any means. I got it at 3.5 minus 104 at Novig. So that should still be available if you're interested in tailing. But we're sticking to mostly prop talk here, and I bet 2 props in this game. First things first, as somebody who's a Chargers backer, and I actually have a touchdown I want to look at here. I bet, where is he? Darren Waller under receiving yards, 40.5 at Prize Picks. I got it at 40.5 at MGM. Looks like it dropped to 37.5, and I bet this like, I'll pull up the time slip here at 11:51. So only 2 hours ago. Seems like the market adjusted. Jets first game, obviously very low snap percentage. 58% of snaps in the next game against the Panthers, which is obviously one of the worst teams against tight ends. And we know that, of course, Tyreek Hill is out, leaving there to be more opportunity for like Malik Washington, Jalen Waddle, and of course, Mr. Waller, who is a week healthier. But looking at some tight end numbers against this Chargers defense, Ertz, first game without a catch or a receiving yard, I think since like 2014 I saw, which is kind of crazy. I know Washington does do a little bit of spreading and their ground game is immaculate, but like Ertz is a big part of their offense. Bowers banged up, held under. Kelsey, we know, is the ghost of Travis Kelsey, under as well. Theo Johnson, also a guy that's getting a lot of targets. But this is, was that pre? No, that was Jackson Dart's first start. He did score a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken there. But regardless, I bet Waller's under. I think that he's, 5 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets in a game where, again, against a perfect matchup, 5 targets to get you 40 yards, I think is not a guarantee as, of course, a receiver, like 20 plus yards after the catch. That's not where the Chargers are really getting smoked here. So I bet the under for Darren Waller receiving yards, but also bet another receiving yard under. And I bet QJ. under 59.5 at DK here. See the number still there. Fanatics to 125. Underdog, I think, at 58.5 as well. This is a good underdog. And Prize Pick Square, we've talked about a few of them already. Don't think I'm overreacting to I don't think I'm overreacting to like the 1 week against Washington where he didn't score. Like he had a bigger, I shouldn't say didn't score, where he didn't convert his receiving yard over, which I actually had his over, but lost it last weekend. He had another play that would have brought him closer to this number that was brought back by penalty. And we know he's been dominating, and we know how bad Miami secondary is. But this was just number seems a bit too high. Only got 4 targets against Washington, which is a team that can get a lot of targets suffered against them. And all in all, if the Dolphins are able to keep him from the big play, like we see the big play has been what's got QJ going 33, 60, 37, 36. Big plays aren't sticky. He's decent yak. We saw a big 44 against Denver, 39 against KC. He's a flung athletic player, don't get me wrong here. But I think that this number is too big when you consider the mouths that the Chargers have to feed. Now, of course, no Hampton. We have Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal here. Vidal at 9.5, which seems a bit low because he was at least, let's go to last year, much more of a receiving back style, getting 3+ targets in the game, where Hassan Haskins last year when he did play, only a couple of targets. So I'm actually intrigued by this Vidal. Let's see where it's available though. 9.5 at MGM, I think is interesting. And this Prize Pick Square for an over at 8.5, I think is definitely interesting. Because he is their receiving back. But you still have like Ladd and Keenan, Keenan is dominating the target share. Let's go back to this year, of course, 8.8 a game. And Ladd McConkey, he hasn't had the season we've all expected from Ladd with this amazing last year. But I think that's more to do with like injuries and just like the rest of the team being great over like Ladd isn't like good, or like last year was like a fluke. Like I think Ladd is still a freaking dog. So with all that being said, I think this is a good spot to go under on QJ, especially with like the market as well. That's like always a big factor here. 59.5 with FanDuel 55.5. I like the under for QJ. But speaking of touchdowns here, I am a fan of, where is he? Keenan Allen. He's been their red zone guy with their target share. 180 at DK, I think, is a very good price for Keenan Allen. I like Keenan Allen to score here. Miami secondary is a freaking abysmal, as we know. We have Leggett, who is like more of a possession guy, was the one who got in. Garrett Wilson, of course, like the alpha, got in. Shakir, more possession guy, is the one who got in. Booty and Matt Collins, I mean, a little bit of a mixture. We never know. Wide receiver 1 got in as in Pittman there. Ladd at 140, though, is also intriguing. He finally scored last week against Washington, which I had first tutty, which was dope. 2-1, actually, for Ladd. At this point, might be a bit more intriguing. I might be flipping here because I haven't bet either yet. Like I'm just targeting the market here. And let me pull up FanDuel and just confirm that pricing. Let me pull up that pricing from FanDuel quickly because I want to confirm that 2-1 because I actually might bet that right this second. Ladd is still so damn good, and we know how bad the secondary is. And yes, there's a bunch of mouths to feed, which is kind of where like the problems per se are. But let's go confirm this here. I'm looking at FanDuel on my phone. TD scores. Ladd 2-1. I think I'm switching to Ladd over Keenan. I was with Jake on Wednesday. He was big on Keenan. I also liked it there. But from a pricing perspective, I think that it is probably – I don't think they should be that far off. Red zone targets, you got 2 against Washington, had 1 against Denver. We know Keenan, again, has been the more like reliable. I think Ladd is capable of more big play stuff. And like QJ has been like the deep ball threat. He can mix in. But based on pricing – Ladd being like priced as the 3rd receiver to score, I think is a bit egregious, honestly. So give me Ladd. Give me Ladd anytime. What's the total here? It's probably high. 43.5. Not that high, actually. Herbert passing I want to look at. Get out of my face, Graham, really. 253. No running game to speak of, predictably, with Omarion Hampton. If obviously Hassan Haskins or Kamani Vidal could, turn in the game of their lives, which is, as we know in the National Football League, anything can happen any given Sunday, which is why it's so fun. But I think it's definitely going to be a big Herbert spot, but the pricing, is accounting for that. Let's pop a track up. I do that every Thursday and Sunday, brother. Appreciate your comments on YouTube. I see them a lot. And thank you for the comment. I really appreciate it. PTO streams are Thursday and Sunday, and I do go through the processes there. So for Mondays and Wednesdays are Outlier. Fridays are Props.cash, though once NBA starts, there's going to be some sick NBA content with Props.cash. But Filters and PTO is Thursdays and Sundays, brother. So I appreciate the comment. And yeah, hopefully you can make it on Sundays. Sundays are at 10:30 Eastern up until game time. And Thursdays are at 7 p.m. Eastern up until game time as well. So hope to see you on both of those streams if possible. Yeah, Herbert's number's too high. I was also looking at here. This is a number that moved quickly. I didn't bet it, but it was like flashing on the screen, and I was interested in. Pretty odd, not like an odd prop. Of course, there's like so many crazy props. Where is it? Longest reception, Malik Washington. Where is he? 12.5. So maybe it did move. This is like, I think it was 9.5 at MGM earlier. Now it's at 13.5. I didn't bet it, so I missed out on this as well, unfortunately. Obviously hasn't gotten there, but he is like a, run after the catch kind of guy. 4 receptions against Carolina. His longs are low, but 27 receiving yards there after the catch. 9 against Carolina, 13-12. So he is a big yak guy. So you got to kind of hope he gets one in space and can break a tackle and, get 12, 13 yards. I mean, now it's too high at 13.5. At 9.5, it seemed like a much better play, but it's all gone here. So for this game, again, QJ under receiving yards, Darren Waller under receiving yards, and give me Ladd anytime tutty. Let's keep rocking here. Dallas, Carolina. I missed the good number, unfortunately, but I still think it's absolutely worth looking at. Probably comes off as a bit square because it's like, oh, worst receiving defense or worst defense against wide receivers and best receiver on the field, but give me all the Tet, man. I think Tet is a dog in the making. Touchdown at 150, I wish was a bit better, honestly. It should be higher. He's never scored, but I understand the pricing, and I think Tet is definitely live to find the end zone in his for the first time this year. 2 end zone targets or red zone targets, 5 on the season in total. Again, get into to hit pay dirt. Looking at receivers against Dallas here. WR1, GW got in. Romeo 3X, who is probably technically WR1. WR1 and 2 got in against them. Neighbors went down. Oh, no, Neighbors scored 2 in this one. I forgot which week he went down, but we know that was a crazy game against Dallas in that overtime game. Neighbors got in twice. Wandale, WR2 got in. And then we have even Burden who scored, but the top 2 WRs got in. I know from like a pricing perspective, with price rules everything. So like, of course, we're going to defer to where we find value in like the markets from a price perspective. But I think it's kind of blasphemous that like who else is going to score? Looks like Chubb is going to play. Like, of course, they could go there. And like, we know that, Xavier Legette was able to score, though he's like really just a bad receiver, honestly. But he did score last week. 330 might be like intriguing. And like, obviously price does rule all. If Coker plays, I'm actually intrigued. I know he's like healthy and off IR, so that's worth noting there. But like Renfro at 215, or that's only at Sleeper, 550 at FanDuel, had those 2 scores against Arizona. CD, I don't think CD's gonna play. Nah, like again, like it's so hard because like I want to focus on like the best price, and like the price is what's going to find you the best bets overall. But like Ted's definitely more of like a gut play where he fits like all the criteria. The market is like adjusted and is like, basically saying that like they agree, but he's so damn good. Maybe depending on the odds of 2+ tutties for Ted, that could be something fun. But I think McMillan finds the end zone for the first time. From a price perspective on the game lines here, we have Dallas laying 3, 3.5, depending where you look. 2.5 at Novig, but there's pretty big juice. 3 at Circa, Penny, and Bookmaker. Total 49.5. So obviously points are expected to be scored here. Pickens, is that even money now? But like it's understandable. He's just dominating. Fergie's getting so many targets here, and like there's Carolina's so bad against tight ends. 155 though, relatively intriguing. Though of course we know that RB1 Javonte minus 200. I mean, he deserves it. He honestly deserves to be it. It's great to see. Not really clowning that, honestly. Like, I'm not betting that, of course, but all the hate from Javonte, tough career to start with the injuries. You got to show some love to the kid for putting in the season he's been putting on. He's going to fly over his rushing yard preseason prop, another $135, a 97. Bunch of big games here, so I definitely could see why this is like an over game. And I'm going with Tet. Tet's my favorite player today. For this matchup. Haven't bet anything yet, but for touchdowns that I like that we found so far are Tet and Ladd. Those are two big time tutties that I like. So let's keep rocking here. A couple more games to go through. Tennessee, Vegas. Battle of two of the worst teams in football. Market doesn't even know what to do with it. Down to 4. Was 4.5, some 3.5, pinning at 3.5. Total 41.5. I wouldn't be shocked if this somehow became a game that's like one of those games where it's like they're so bad that like there are fireworks, because Geno Smith, as we know how bad he's been this year, like can of course, put up some big passing games. I had him last week on the over, which we hit in garbage time by skin of my teeth. I think it was 225.5. He got the 228, which was like really nice. Seems a bit low. Fanatics is 220. I think I would bet with like passing yard props. Of course, like you can give yourself a bit of leeway on the yardage, though they are priced very well and accordingly. So like again, I think this closed at 227.5, honestly. So if you bet the over, you just hit. If you bet the under, you're breaking stuff on a bad beat there. 36 pass attempts. My only concern is they might just say, Ashton, here's the football. Run. Just run. You have 21 attempts against Chicago, which is a bad rushing defense. 14 against Indy, but we know that game script got way out of hand very quickly there. But I wouldn't be shocked if this is a Genty game where they just like give him the football on the vast majority of plays. 150 for a tutty. No, thank you. That's way too high for me. Maybe in like a parlay potentially. But I'm not really in love. I haven't bet anything in this game. It's really a game that like I don't anticipate betting much in anyway. This Ward over a half. Like I know this one against the Rams was like nonsense. He couldn't get one against Ari, and like hasn't done anything too well so far this year. The problem with these kind of situations really to me is like Brian Callahan is like quite literally the worst coach in football now, and one of the worst coaches we've seen in a long freaking time. So it's like, how do you have any confidence that they're going to like turn the ship around? They should not have beat Arizona. They got so lucky with the DeMarcado dropping and then the fumble touchdown off a pick, nonetheless. It wasn't like, somebody fumbled at the 1 and then like it rolled in, somebody hopped on it, like touchdown. Like he threw a freaking interception. That should have ended that game there. So I liked Cam Ward. I still like Cam Ward, but like the coaching is so bad. It's not like, again, Pete Carroll at this point hasn't been coaching this team too well either. Don't get me wrong. Maybe Tajay Spears being back in the fold, helps. Hard to think it would help too much, though. I think Spears is a good player. Pollard, of course, has been having a pretty good season overall. Let's give the Titans a bit of credit, or I guess Pollard at least a little bit of credit here, having a pretty decent season, all things considered, and even Ridley, who flew over his number. But where I think there could be a big bit of a advantage here is on special teams. The Raiders special teams are abysmal, and this kid here, Chimere, I don't want to pretend to pronounce his last name, does do a good job in the kick return game. He was the player of the week for his return prowess against Arizona, and he does set up the field pretty nicely. If the Raiders do dominate, or excuse me, the Titans do dominate special teams again, they can keep themselves in this game. And he did have his best overall game in terms of snaps played, receptions, 2 for 5. Only 17 yards. So again, I'm not a guy I'm dying to bet. Maybe looking at the market here. No value, but I'm intrigued by him a bit and how he can actually like impact the game. Io Manor I'm also intrigued by a bit. Like the secondary is really bad. And he is like, the rookie to rookie connection they have developed has been pretty solid. 5.8 targets a game here. Let's look at Jacoby stuff. And I want to look at some historicals here past it. This is my favorite feature, Props.cash, by the way, is the historical feature. This is such a great feature so you can understand not just how opposing players did against the team, but they give you the line and the odds so you can actually bust down and see like what's happening. And Props.cash also completely revamped their their app UI, and it actually looks so damn good. It's the same data you know and love, actually some additional data as well. They added like calculated edges and like matchup grades and some other like really good things. I got to figure out how to stream some app stuff for PC moving forward. I have some content on YouTube and X coming out for checking it out to see what's good with it. So I recommend downloading Props.cash and use promo code BetSmart. You'll save 30% off your first month with NBA coming. Now's the time. But all things considered here, I'm going to go back to the historicals. Yep, didn't mean to get on a little bit of a tangent there. Wide receivers, Marv cooked. Dortch went over. Michael Wilson, get him off my screen. He's pissing me off. 0 for 2 Ben Wilson this year. And had faith in the kid, but he's not good. Alec Pierce with a deep ball threat went well over. Pittman, of course, went over against Tennessee. We had him in that game a few weeks ago. If you guys were on stream for that, Puka dominated. Tay dominated as well. Tennessee. This seems a bit low for Jacoby, honestly. Wish we had some odds at FanDuel and DraftKings. Did I miss any potential injury stuff? I don't think so. I think Geno's good to go. Let me do a quick Twitter search here to see if I missed anything. I just typed in Geno Twitter. Geno Smith. I don't think I missed anything. Obviously his interception numbers are ridiculous here. Oh, it's his birthday. Is that true? Happy birthday, Geno. But let's go to Act RBDSM here. I want to look at how like bad Geno has been. The answer is very, very bad. Absolutely horrible. Cam Ward, of course, very terrible. Flacco. We'll get to him. Don't get me wrong. We'll get to some Packers, Bengals. Bryce Young, of course, terrible. Browning, terrible. Ross Herbert EPA per play being this low is wasn't on my bingo card. Success rate though, Geno still low. Overall composite here, Geno abysmal. JD5 being down here, but he was doing with injuries. We don't talk shit about JD5, my best boy, which we'll get to him, of course. But this is how bad it's been for Geno, EPA per play. Obviously, interceptions is a big thing to do with that, but guy can't stop throwing picks. It's like, what are you going to do? With that being said, this number seems low for Jacoby. Very low. 52.5 for MGM. I would say lock this in. I'll pull it up on my other computer here quickly, and I want to confirm that number. Actually, I have FanDuel open here because I'm curious why there are no odds just yet for this game. Maybe PC is just loaded to pull them up, because I don't think there's any injuries to be cognizant of. Looking at Myers. No, he's not up. Maybe Myers got hurt. Why am I looking up Geno Smith? Like maybe himself got hurt. If I missed that news. Jacoby Myers. Do a quick little search here. And feel free to let me know in chat if you guys already know. No. Just need some more information. Just need the books to drop. Okay. Interesting. I want to see this open up more books, but this is on my radar. Jacoby Myers, absolutely. I think it's too low, especially with the way that we know Brock Bowers has been banged up. This Tennessee defense, Geno is going to sling it regardless. I want to just pull up these numbers here. It hasn't not been pretty, but the attempts are there in a bunch of big games there. Washington, even with the kind of blowout there, he still went over his total, finding Trey Tucker deep down the field. Chicago, that was just give the ball to Genti because of how bad their defense is, and we'll again talk Bears, Kami shortly. Him completing the ball is a different story there. Still did well against Washington, of course, terrible against Chicago, but I guess only missed 7 passes realistically. Jacoby Myers is on my radar. We need some more numbers here, but I'm going to move on. I don't love too much in that game, but Jacoby Myers is on my target. We got to just get more prop numbers to surface. But Niners, Bucks, Another pretty big one. The Bucks laying 3 at home, 3.5 at Novig, -123 though. I don't know the liquidity, but that's worth noting potentially. Baker, MVP Baker, on the rise. Obviously having an amazing season. We'll look into some stuff here actually as well. I want to pull up RBDSM one more time here to look at how good Baker's been from a completion percentage over expected plus EPA perspective. Baker's ninth in football. EPA per play, Baker eighth in football. Success rate, Baker not as great, 20th. So the advanced numbers still not backing him, and those include rushing numbers, success rates, and EPA per play. So interesting case. I'm not going to sit here and say Baker Mayfield having 4 game-winning drives and putting the team on his back isn't playing good football, because that would be a lie right through my teeth. He's playing fantastic football, but I guess the question is, how sustainable is it? The Niners have the short week, the long rest, the mini bye. Of course, at home for Tampa. The real thing is, it's like, how can Baker do this every week? You can't have a game-winning drive every week. As much as every team wishes they could, it's just not possible. We all watch football. We know how this game goes. It's impossible to have a game-winning drive every single week. So there has to be a spot where eventually it comes down to earth. I'd have to guess. Maybe it is just a magic season. We know Godwin's out. But a prop that I liked as well, it got hit pretty hard, unfortunately. Tongs under receptions I liked. At 165, though, that's way too much. And the reason why there's just so much lack of availability now is because we don't know the injury situation for the Niners. Nope, we don't know about Pearsall. Don't know about Juwan Jennings. It's tough when you don't know. I think Mac is confirmed playing. Yep, Mac is at least confirmed here, but like, who is the receiving core? Is Kittle going to be back? I don't know if I missed that news, but from a prop perspective, man, I hate to cut a game short, but realistically, without knowing who's playing receiver, it's just impossible. There aren't odds up. Only odds are up for Jacob Tongs and CMC, who I faded his under receptions was 6.5. He had 6 going into OT, and of course, first 2 passes are freaking right to McCaffrey in overtime. So I have no regrets on that bet. I would bet that again. It was plus money as well at under 6.5. But that's one of those where I guess I wouldn't necessarily call it a bad beat. It probably does categorize in the bad beat realm, unfortunately. On the game that we play. So I'm gonna have to move on, unfortunately, just because not enough information, and there might not be enough for this game either. But we have one of the best games of the week coming up just after this. And I do have some plays that I locked in and some stuff I'm interested in as well. So let's see if I missed anything. Nope, that's for the next game. Bengals. Again, I don't know what we're going to see from a prop perspective. Of course, we know Burrow. We know what Joe is starting at quarterback. It's Joe Flacco, the brand new Bengal. He already beat the Packers once this year, but again, that was all defense, man. That was all the Brownies defense, and we know how bad the defense is for the Bengals. But there's a touchdown I like. It's going to be, I wouldn't say ugly, it's going to be chalky. Romeo. This was 190, down to 150. At that price, it's a little bit shot, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but I'm not, again, sitting here to brag about past posting some prices. We're trying to find the best in market here. This was 190 on Stream Wednesday when I locked it in. And even as soon as, I want to say yesterday, I was looking at it as well. It was still there. As we know, odds in the NFL and every sport could change as I'm speaking right now. This could bounce to 190, could drop to 120. But I'm just confirming on DK, though I'm seeing it here, but wouldn't be shocked to see it have dropped, and it has to 155, unfortunately. But I still like Romeo off the 3-tutty game, but he is so good off the line of scrimmage, especially in the red zone. One quick move, if they're not able to rush it in with Jacobs, they can just go to Romeo. Jacobs is 220 as well, so I'm not betting any 220s for Josh Jacobs, though he's probably going to score. Just a guy that I love to have on my fantasy team. But Romeo, from a scoring perspective, is big. But I also saw a lot of love in the market for Matthew Golden, which is unsurprising, especially considering the matchup here. Where is he? 41.5, though, is just a bit high. I know he's gotten there the last 2 weeks, but it's a bit high, honestly. That being said, this 40.5 at Fanatics, actually, this 39.5 at DraftKings is a good spot. Looking at some receivers, Amon-Ra cooked them. Even Tesla got there. Franklin and Mims got there. And Sutton, they just dominated. Jetta's barely under, but of course was right around his number. Diami got there. BTJ dropping passes. Travis Hunter, again, that's like before we knew what to expect from him from a playtime and route run perspective on offense. Said he got there. Judy just under. Pickens, nada. Marvin Mims cooked. I was gonna say that's last 10. I was gonna say, is that no way that happened this year? We're gonna go to the season here. Yeah, ends with Seti there. But I'm interested in Golden over 38.5. But Romeo Dobbs, my favorite touchdown here. We know the Packers love to spread the ball around the field. So there's some rushing stuff. Something that Jay called out on Stream Wednesday, which I liked for touchdown, is like Jamar Chase. This is just a situation where you're getting plus 230 for a guy who's routinely priced at the minus 110 to plus 150 range. And I know Joe Flacco's playing. I know the Packers defense off a bye should be in a much better situation. They're also at home in Lambeau where they dominate and not in Cleveland playing against one of the best defenses in football, especially at home. This is just a situation where price, as ruling everything, 230 for a guy who's routinely priced in like a crazy number is too low. So I like Jamar Chase, and I'll put that on record. Jamar and Romeo. Shout to Jake for stream on Wednesday calling that out. The real like thesis on that is just like, which is a good thesis, the price is wrong. Like the price is so far off what it normally is. And I understand it's not Browning. It's obviously not Burrow. It's obviously against a good defense on the road. But 230 for Jamar, I'll take that all day. So let's move on there. Romeo and Jamar are my two favorite plays. And I do like Matt Golden over. But Detroit KC game of the week here. I bet the Chiefs money line. Stop me if you heard that before, as I often bet the Chiefs when they're short favorites or underdogs. When they're underdogs, it's an auto click for me, to be honest. Of course, assuming Mahomes is under center, it's an auto click. Like greatest quarterback ever as a dog, worked against Baltimore, did not work against the Eagles this year or in the Super Bowl. But if I'm losing a bet, I'm betting on Patrick Mahomes again as a dog. I'm in, and then as a short favorite. But the real reason is I want to see if I can find a tweet to pull it up here. It's the Lions secondary. I don't know if you guys have seen. I hope you guys have been doing your due diligence this week. But their secondary is so damn banged up. I have it on my phone here because I was talking about it in a group chat. So I'll just read off what I saw here. But we saw here it is. Neither Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph will practice today. Both could be game time decisions. Safety Avonte Maddox, who showed up on the injury report Thursday, could also be a game time decision. And that also pairs with some of the other secondary injuries they had to cornerback specifically. The Chiefs offense are coming off their best game of the season against Jacksonville. Of course, they lost, but from like a success rate perspective and from a numbers perspective, they had their best game of the year. I actually can pull up some numbers here. Just going to, what was that, week 5? I want to pull up just week 5. And I'm going to go to offense just to show you how good the situation was for the Chiefs offense. EPA per play, they were 8th in football, but success rate, they were number 1 in football last week. So they were getting whatever they wanted on the Jags. Of course, they could not convert there. Even from a rushing perspective, they were pretty good. And from a drop back perspective, not as great, 17th, but from a success rate, again, number 2 in football. And that's behind just the Texans, who, of course, dominated the lowly Ravens. But looking again, just week 5, the Chiefs offense was on one. By far their best game of the season and one of the better games you will see. So I bet the Chiefs. I think that the Lions with their secondary issues, it's going to be really tough sledding for them. Mahomes' passing prop is crazy high, but the other thing worth noting is this total, which is at 52.5, 53 at some places as well. I think we could see a potential game like the Chiefs Rams a few years ago, that was that like massive shootout that was ridiculous. I would not be surprised to see this game turn into that on Sunday night, honestly. Jake was on the under, and he had very good points because the Lions, like the best defense is to not play defense. So if the Lions can run the ball on this poor Chiefs offense, poor Chiefs run defense, and like just tick clock, tick clock, tick clock, could lead to the under and also lead to Detroit winning. But I think that there actually has some explosive rushes to come from Jameer. But my other play that I bet this week was David Montgomery. I bet his under actually, because I'm of the belief, like I get his point, but I'm of the belief that the run game is actually going to be a situation where they're like dominating and aren't like getting 3 to 4 yards a clip. I think they could be breaking off some massive runs, and the Chiefs secondary hasn't been great either. I bet Montgomery under 47.5 rushing yards, but I bet this yesterday at 6 p.m. Unfortunately, that number is like long gone. So not the like past post, but just the reality of the situation. I was hoping it was still close. But I bet Montgomery's under because I think this is a high scoring game. And for all you parlay bettors, which I am for fun when they give me boosts, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't bet fun parlays, but I try to find plus EV legs for all of them, of course. But this could be one of those fun ones that's like you put together some crazy slips and get after it. So anytime TDs, Mahomes definitely in play. Again, we know he's been dominating the red zone rushing attack, 3 rushing touchdowns this season. Pacheco was freaking 4-1 last week, but at 245 at DK, I know he hasn't done crap. He's got the 1 touchdown. Even the red zone attempts are low. I'm interested in Pacheco. I know Brashard Smith is like coming up a bit. I think it's still a bit too early. Even with like Kareem Hunt being again the 2 touchdowns in that game, he is still their goal line guy. This is just pricing here. 245 for Pacheco. I think you can honestly still wait and get a better price on Pacheco too. But that's where I'm interested in, honestly. Pacheco to score. On the other side, like JMO 210. He hasn't been in that passing game. Worthy 145, 150. Like, I think this could be one where you just like pick like some of the chalkier guys and get after it. Like Jameer at 150. Honestly, love. I know I talked down about a bunch of guys like in that price point or even higher, but Jameer, no. Also, what's his rush longest? 17.5. I guess it's probably better to look at receiving yards for him. I think Jameer can go absolutely berserk here. And looking at some running backs against him, even Tootin went over, Etienne under with 3 catches. Henry went over Justice Hill, Scattaboo. Hampton and Barkley did not, but Barkley, they were targeted a good amount. I think that the Lions do have a good game plan here. I think there's a ton of points, and like you can't get there without Jahmyr Gibbs having a day and a half. And I think that is Jahmyr Gibbs' spot. So Montgomery under, Chiefs money line, alternate overs, and for again my SGP bettors, I think have fun with this one. Put some alternates up to 100 yards, put some 2 tutties. I think you can have fun with this one. If it is the total is 49.5. So like even if it is like a normal quote unquote game based on like the market, that's still going to be like a pretty high, prop game, high scoring game as well. But I think we could be in for like a massive 80 combined point, like marathon type of game, which would be awesome for betting some, fun SGPs, some alternate lines. So I could, of course, be wrong. Just my opinion here, but that is my take on the game. Like Jake is like pretty hard on the under, like loves the under, and I love going head to head with my boy. So great content, nonetheless. There'll be some great content coming out of that game. So what more can you ask for? Sometimes like content is king at times, but give me the over, give me the Chiefs, and give me Montgomery under rushing yards. Got a great price, so half the battle there, half the battle of a sports better. And obviously there's time. I'll be streaming on Sunday in the morning, so we'll see how things move. Maybe there is another entry point, or maybe the market tells me to screw myself. This won't be the first or last time. Monday night, boys, Buffalo, Atlanta. I look at this game and I'm kind of like, how the hell are the Bills only 4-point favorites? And that's a very square thought, very square thing to say out loud. It's gone to 4.5 actually at most shops. There are some 4s out there though. Bookmaker at 4 still. BOL at 4, Profit X 4. I don't know the liquidity though, right off the top of the dome here. I get it where the Bills can't stop a nosebleed, and like Bijan, this is why his numbers are looking like they do, 115 and a half, because Bijan Robinson, like, I don't think I know I'm not hot taking or anything like that, but like we gotta like let's just like give a quick little clap for Bijan. He's on a freaking another planet. He's so damn good and so much freaking fun. And the numbers he's putting up are ridiculous. And the Bills cannot stop anybody in this kind of capacity here. Let's look at some numbers here from running backs. Like this is combined. We can just sort of rush yards, like a lot of green, as you guys can see here. You know, we know what Henry did week 1. We know what AK did, Achan. Even Antonio Gibson got there, Trevion almost. But bro, Bijan is on another planet, and I think that that's kind of like the thesis on like not being in love with Buffalo here. A total also at 50. This could be another one to maybe get some parlay going, like across if you want to find 2 spots you love in Sunday night, 2 spots you love here. I can absolutely see that. And if you go to like touchdowns, I can only assume him and Cook are like ridiculously priced. 170 not as bad as I thought, honestly. I thought it'd be a bit worse. And Cook at 160, I also thought that would be a bit worse as well. But not surprising that this is where they're sitting here. But I know that Buffalo's not a team that really wins by margin a ton because they do love to run the football and they can benefit from explosive plays here and there, but they are like a run it, clock runs, Josh picks up a first, clock moves kind of team. But I don't think Atlanta is nearly like on this planet. And like I think that the turf in Atlanta, like Buffalo, of course, a outdoor team, but like inside the dome on the turf, I think we could see Josh like be like again, like we know how good he is. We don't need to pull up RBDSM to know how good Josh freaking Allen is. Um, Out of curiosity now, I'm gonna pull it up, but I think this could be like a game where like they're just like skating. You go back to quarterbacks here. I just this is again curiosity, not that we need to like justify or talk about Josh though. Surprised to see him. Oh, seventh. I was gonna say, I was like, what? He's not up here. Oh, so I'm looking at this for the first time. Fourth in EPA per play, ninth in success rate. His air yards are probably low though. Actually, not necessarily. We'll find out right now. Oh, they are pretty low. 23rd. CPOE. That's not his game though. Obviously, he's been rushing the football well, but let's we can go at offensive numbers here. Look at just like rushing success rate. We have Buffalo at 4th. Atlanta, where are they? They're in 18th. Dropback success rate. We know that Penix has been struggling a bit. 7th in Buffalo. Struggling is like maybe not the right word, just still coming on, not into his own. I don't think Penix is like bad by any means. I think he's actually going to continue to be better at football. But the Bills love to run the football there, and even dropbacks. You add in Josh's running ability, hence why it's so high because we know they don't throw it so often. Let me just go through my slips here. I don't think I bet anything in this game just yet, but I think I'm definitely going to see how the market matures. I might not be able to wait too much longer here because it's getting to 4.5. It looks like, but I like to lay it with Buffalo. And again, like Buffalo's a game of like who's going to be the guy to turn up. Like you don't know if it's going to be Keon in the back of the end zone, if it's going to be Kincaid like he did. Like Keon week 1 was crazy. Kincaid week 5 was crazy. Shakir also had a pretty solid game here with 45, but his receptions were high, 6 and 5. We know he's around the line of scrimmage there. So with Buffalo, it is like a bit of a guessing game. With the Falcons, you know that they're going to love to look at Drake London, 9.3 targets a game. And obviously Bijan, who is just ridiculous in all meanings of the word. He is so epic. It's like almost unfathomable. It's like so funny. A running back putting up these numbers. It's like, oh, probably, running for 100, getting a couple catches. Quite the contrary. 106, 139. He's so much fun, man. TDs, are high. I haven't found any props that I love. And like, again, like this is a situation where I think you could just alt some guys. Like you're better off alting. Like looking at Keon, if you think Keon's going to turn up, he's getting 112. I don't think he's going to get 40. Like I know, like you're looking at here, like touchdowns, he's got 2 on the season. I would be alting Keon if I'm interested. Even Palmer, like if you're interested in Josh Palmer, why are you going to bet 20 plus? Like you might as well bet 30 plus if the odds, of course, correlate. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that blindly. Like if you're getting it's 18 and a half yards at 109. If it's 30 plus at 105, like no, that's not a good bet. But I think if you can go up for some ladder opportunities here in this one, even James Cook, I know he's like receiving, he killed it with against Baltimore, then he dropped a bunch of goose eggs here. But I would be alternate line hunting in this one. Chiefs and Lions, Bills, Falcons, and Jacksonville and Seattle. All games with high totals, so I'm not like going out on like a crazy limb here. But those are games where I'd be targeting and looking to find value in some alternate line markets in the props, because I think those games can be like massive over games, marathons that like even at such highly put totals are potentially not high enough. And then from other games, I also think that if anything is going to be that's already low total that could end up being a shootout or a higher scoring, I think we have Chargers, Miami, and Tennessee, Las Vegas could fit the bill to be like more offensively electric than other games. So let's go to the final one on the slate. My Kami is hosting the Bears. So here's the thing. I liked Chicago at open. I didn't bet it. I'm a Commander fan, and at this point, because of how good we are, like I'm always team bet with brain over anything else because obvious reasons. But I am in the kind of the boat now where it's like I don't even want to bet against my commies, even if I think it's clear value or have my numbers show clear value, just because like we're good. So it's like why like have that conundrum? I backed the Chargers last week, we went by 17, and it's like a little bit bittersweet. Though obviously I'm not tripping over losing a unit on a bet. But this is an interesting one because the commies, the one way to look is just right here, rush yards. Washington is liable to put up 200 rush yards. They're number one in the league in rushing yards per game. And the Bears, let's pull up RBDSM, rush EPA. 22nd in football, which isn't as bad as you would expect. Success rate, 25th in football. But they can be run on all over the field. And let's pull up these right here. We know what Genti did. We know what Javonte did. We know what Jameer and David did. And we know what Jordan Mason did. There's some QBs here. Even Geno turned up. Even Goff got there. This Bears defense is so bad at stopping the run. I think that this total is a bit egregious, honestly. I love the under. It's 49.5. It's 50 at some shops. 15.5 at ESPN minus 120. I'm interested in that overall. The commies, we saw them just dominate a drive where they got the ball at their 1 yard line. There was like 9 minutes of clock left in the fourth quarter. So that includes the 2-minute warning and the Chargers calling some timeouts. And they score a walk-off touchdown with like a minute and change left. If they could do it against the Chargers, I would be shocked if they couldn't do it against the Bears. Now, the Bears are off a bye, and I would be hard-pressed to believe that over these last 2 weeks, Ben Johnson and co. weren't just sitting there like practicing run defense, as dumb as that sounds. But like from like a motivation perspective, from like a schematic perspective, like there's no way they didn't sit there for the last 2 weeks and say, we suck at defending the run. We have one of the best, if not the best, rushing offenses coming into or we're going to face them. They had extra time to prepare. I would be shocked to think that they weren't sitting there like, how do we fix this moving forward, and particularly for our next opponent? Because we know what Bill's doing. We know what Bill did last week. Buck 11, 47% of the snaps too. How many carries was it? Only 14 rush attempts. The kid's on another planet. I talked about this on stream on Wednesday pretty in depth. Like he moves different, which is awesome to see it, even in the receiving yard game. So I faded him in this LV game, which was good on the reception props. 2 receptions only, but targets wise, like he's converting the one that's only a couple chances he gets. And Cliff Kingsbury went out and said this week, as dope as Bill is, he's got so much to go in pass pro, in anything that doesn't revolve having the ball in your hands as a running back, which of course is a very underrated part of the position. I mean, ball knowers know how important that is for playing time, for value to your team. He's got his ways to go there. But that being said, he's clearly making strides. This is a guy who did not catch the ball in college. at all. He didn't even play last year. Before that, didn't catch the ball too often, but converted 2 of 2 and went well over his number there. I think it's the Washington defense put up one of their best games. Of course, the Chargers O-line was so banged up. Not like this Bears O-line is good either. DJ Moore also, he had, and I want to just pull this up just for context. I guess it was 2 years ago, or was it last year? It was 2 years ago because last year against Washington, he was shut down. But 2 years ago, he had that 3-tutty game. For all you narrative street bettors, DJ Moore's from the DMV area, so he loves playing in Washington. I'm sure he'll have some family and friends there. For whatever that's worth, do with that information as you please. Of course, he's been having a dog year. But from a tutty perspective, 195. I wish that was a bit better. Honestly. That's too low. I was going to say that's my favorite, but it's not anymore with that price. Oh, Dunze even at even money. No, that's sleeper. 135 at DraftKings. The secondary needs to put up a game similar to what they did last week. Can they do that again? I don't think so. But it's worth understanding. Ertz did not catch a ball, but he is, of course, a big part of this offense. But like with JD5 under center, man, he looked like he could run even with the brace. This is past tutties out of curiosity. I like this 114 at FanDuel. Caleb 102 at FanDuel. Though I do think this could be an under game. I haven't done enough here. I'll on stream Sunday we'll talk more into this one, but hate that I don't have anything to like give out here, and I'm beating around the bush a bit because I still just need to do some more diving. But definitely enjoyed running through a bunch of these games here and giving out the information that we did. Amazing stream, guys. So let me run through everything that we bet so far. We have, I'll give out game lines as well. Chargers -3.5, Colts -7, Chiefs money line. Then we have DK over 51.5 receiving yards. I actually did bet something in this game. I missed it. Conley's run defense has been their bread and butter, and I think that the Bears are going to look to throw. I bet DeAndre Swift under 53.5 rushing yards. Looks like that number is gone, unfortunately. I bet that yesterday at like 6 p.m. But I bet DK over 51.5 receiving yards. Swift under 53.5 rushing yards. Montgomery under 47.5 rushing. Juwan Johnson over 32.5 receiving. Darren Waller under 40.5 receiving. Fields under 44.5 rushing. Harvey under 51.5 rushing and receiving. Quentin Johnston under 59.5 receiving. Also, from a prop perspective, we have Travion Henderson over 2.5 receptions. Quentin Johnston also under 4.5 receptions. And then Njoku under 34.5 receiving yards. Those are the props that we locked in. And then the touchdowns, Ladd McConkey anytime. Romeo Dobbs anytime. And I feel like I'm missing someone here. I like Jacoby Myers, needs some more props out there. And Ted McMillan touchdown. Those are my favorite touchdowns on the board for this week. So shout out to everybody for hopping in. I'll be on stream 10:30 a.m. sharp on Sunday up until game time, using all the boosts, finding last minute EV bets, finding more anytime and first touchdowns. We hit some crazy first touchdowns last week with Ladd and Theo Johnson. And we only bet 3 of them, by the way, and we hit 2 of the 3. So make sure to tune in Sunday morning. Best of luck with your bets if you're betting college football and MLB tonight. And I'll see you guys on Sunday.